I'd like to call the May 2nd, 2019 work session to order. At this time, I'd like to call Virginia Arrington.
Hi, good afternoon. Probably about a year ago, if you'll remember, the board and Dr. Dowdy asked that we put together a bullying committee, a countywide bullying committee. And so through that committee, we've met regularly over the course of the last probably year and a half. And we collected some data at the beginning of the year. We had a consistent definition that we put in place, and that was put in the handbook for bullying. And so then what we wanted to do was to explore how we educate students on anti-bullying and how to self-regulate and how to make better choices and how to communicate better with each other. So through the course of those meetings and some research that was done, one of the things that came to the forefront was a program or a curriculum called Olveus. And so this is something that is a curriculum that can be implemented in the schools, and it can be implemented K-12 eventually. But what we decided was to kind of look at focusing on the south end of the county and some of the smaller schools first. And there's a training that's involved in that. And Stephanie Cox, who is the counselor at Central Elementary and Knott's Island, and Nicole Derby, who is the counselor at Jarvisburg and Griggs, went to the 3-day training for Olveus. So they're going to present some information to you about what they learned at the training and how we might go forward.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Cox. And we did attend a 3-day training. It was, I can't say it was intense, but it was eye-opening. It was very useful. I've been in education a long time, but this is probably one of the best programs that I have been a part of. Very well researched, so much information at our fingertips, and a ton of support offered. We both have already had a phone conference with our OTEC. We're trying to learn all the terminology, the lingo, and I've just already been really impressed, so I hope you will be too. We are going to start out with a definition of bullying. Olveus has its own specific definition. It's very similar to others that you've heard, but I'll go ahead and start with it. Bullying is when someone repeatedly and on purpose says or does mean or hurtful things to another person who has had a hard time defending him or herself. This is Dan Olveus' actual definition. They suggest that we use this one simply because across the board, everyone from elementary schools to high schools would be implementing the same terminology, the same definition. It would help students, parents, and all staff. Dan Olveus is 88. He is a pioneer and was one of the first people to study bullying. He still goes to work every day and is really hands-on with this program. An important thing to note that we learned in our training is even though this is about bullying, when we're having situations, they recommended using the word bullying very sparingly, and victim as well, unless you have actually been there and seen it happen right before your eyes. We have to be careful, and we all know just from the media and just being in schools, this term has been overused at times, and it's an important one, so we have to be very careful with that.
A little more about Dr. Olveus. He was a researcher at the University of Bergen in Norway. Dr. Olveus is often referred to as the father of research on bullying. He conducted his first systematic research in the early 70s. The Olveus Bullying Prevention Program was first introduced in 1983 as a part of a nationwide campaign against bullying problems that started in Norway. The introduction of the program was motivated by a concern about suicides of 3 young boys in the northern part of Norway who had been bullied by their peers. That's really what motivated them and their country to begin looking into this research and start this program.
The main goals are to reduce existing bullying problems among students to prevent the development of new problems and to achieve better peer relations at school. And this is done by restructuring the school environment, and we'll talk a little bit more about those components as we go on.
So research has shown that bullying prevention needs to happen on multiple levels to really be effective. And the Alves program has 4 components based on this, and they consist of the school level component, the classroom level, an individual, and a community level. And then later, they added in now to the parents into that because they realize the parents are also a big part of this puzzle, and they can help out in all of these areas. It's very important to get work from home. We want parents involved as well, just to have success in this program. So that's why they implemented the parents kind of in the middle of the little puzzle there.
One interesting and very helpful component is a survey, a bullying survey that they have us conduct. It's done once a year. They recommend that we do it in October. That way it's not right at the beginning of the year. Everybody's had a chance to get into their routines and get settled in. It's a lengthy survey. It's approximately 45 minutes, and it's appropriate for grades 3 through 12. And any of our students that have special accommodations or anything would receive it for this survey. It is to help us assess the nature of bullying that could be going on in our schools, the extent of it, and where it's happening. When we get the report back, it's, I don't know how many pages, like hundreds,
Like
yeah,
100
pages of information. It's very detailed information, and our support person, our OTAC, will sit with us and decipher the information so then we can also share it out because it's vital to making this program work.
The second step of the school part of the program is getting this advanced bullying prevention coordinating committee. The committee is a representative from the school. It can be already a committee that is in place, because we have a lot of committees now. PBIS would probably be a really good place to start. Many of the people that are probably on that committee, it kind of falls in line with that, so they recommend using that committee as possible members for this committee for each school, because you want to have teachers, you want to have some administration, you want to have parents, other support staff involved in this committee. Then Stephanie or I, or both of us together as consultants, will come and train the committee at the school. This training takes about 2 days, 6 hours each day. And then once the training is complete, we would meet with the committee generally monthly. They say at first we need to meet once a month just to assess things, how things are going, and continue with other bullying prevention activities, any other training that's necessary, motivation, getting teachers involved, staff, parents as well.
A great component of this program is that all staff at some point will be trained. All teachers, the nurse, custodians, bus drivers, and I thought that was great because a lot of times we don't involve every single person, and it's difficult to know how to deal with these situations. Now, that doesn't mean that a bus driver is going to be processing the event with students, but there is a set strategy for what adults are to say. Actually, in our training, we had somebody that was recertifying, which to me proved the staying power of this program because her school system has been using this for 11 years. Things don't often stay around that long, so I think that spoke volumes. And she said that some of her staff members even had the 6 points of what they needed to do and say on the back of their badge because they wanted to make sure they handled the situation correctly. So everyone will know how to respond to a situation. They'll also know who to pass it on to. Nicole and I, as school counselors, would of course be integral in that, and then we can share it out with parents and involve everyone. And the initial staff training is 6 hours.
And with the staff training, we train the committee, Stephanie and I as consultants would train the committee, and the committee would train the rest of the staff at the school in that 6-hour training. And they do also have, we mentioned the bus drivers, they have a specific training just for bus drivers, which are 2, I believe, 20-minute videos that train bus drivers, because we know, I mean, that's a place that's hard to monitor and fully occurs often on our buses. By the data reports, we see that often, so we have been very thorough with that. And then step 4 is to establish enforce school rules. And they recommend that these 4 rules are used at every school, just like to keep the common language, and it's easy enough the elementary can do it. I mean, of course, high school will be able to grasp these rules, which are we will not bully others. We will try to help students who are bullied. We will try to include students who are left out. And if we know that somebody is being bullied, we will tell an adult at home and tell an adult at school. These rules are to be taught and posted throughout the school with appropriate methods of positive reinforcement and developing appropriate corrective consequences when there is a bullying issue. And so it's very important that they are posted and that everyone knows, has these 4 rules, so there's no gray areas like, well, I didn't really know that rule. Yeah, we all know that we're teaching them, we're getting it enforced, everybody knows this.
Classroom meetings are a big part of this program. Elementary schools are encouraged to meet weekly. For middle and high schools, it's about every other week for a class period. This is a great time. I know we had our visitor, yes, that came, and we can integrate some of his things into these class meetings, social emotional skills, team building for a class, dealing with any issues going on in a classroom. This will help the teacher to kind of keep their finger on the pulse of things and how it's going, and a great way to develop rapport in the classroom and to strengthen those relationships.
The individual component of the program. The IBS program encourages staff to intervene when bullying is witnessed, suspected, or reported, and it provides training so that all staff is well prepared to intervene. Like Stephanie referred to earlier, they have 6 steps when you actually spot the bullying going on. When a teacher comes in the hall and they see the kid throwing their backpack or books across the floor, when they actually see the bullying, there's a 6-step process they have to go by, so there's no question like, how should I handle this, what do I do? So there's a 6-step process that each staff will be trained in if they're witnessing the bullying firsthand. Now, the follow-up interventions, like she said, would probably come from the counselor or someone else with a little bit different training. But they are important as well, follow-up interventions, and bringing in parents, staff, different things. They go through it, they cover completely how to handle with each person, each stakeholder, each person that's going to be involved, and it's very thorough, and it goes through what to do for all the interventions.
Parental involvement, again, we keep saying that is a big part of this. They want us to make sure that every year at the beginning of the year, we involve parents, maybe an open house to have something about this so that they understand what's going on. If teachers are sending home classroom newsletters, they can keep parents up to date on some of the skills they worked on during class meetings, a reminder of the rules that we're all following, how to identify bullying, what to do, so that we keep in contact and make sure that they're up to date and it's something at the forefront of their mind should they need that information. And we want our students to know too that we're connecting with their families, whether they are someone who's been subject to bullying or a child that is having trouble with behavior getting along with others.
And the last part of the component is the community. Involvement with the community is recommended as much as possible, developing partnership with community members to help support the program. The anti-bullying message can be spread around our community, have students like make posters in school, and have local businesses put these posters up in their businesses as well. There's also, as consultants, we can train communities, community organizations as well, like we have the YMCA and some of our after-school programs. They can get trained in this as well. It can be done for them. We also want to have the support from the community. It can be financial. Obviously, it would be great if they could financially help us out, or with getting materials. There are some materials, which is going to be a slide in a second to talk about the materials, and we have some of the books and materials that are on the table over there. And then just supporting with human support coming out. We have different events like the PBIS and things that kind of support the positive relationship between students volunteering with that, helping out with things. So we want to get our community involved as much as possible.
This is just a quick slide to let you know some program costs that are there. And like Nicole said, we have books that are way over there, so we had to pass them around that didn't even remember with us. But there's some great resources to help support the staff in implementing this in the schools. And our take-home message, it is possible to reduce bullying. It requires a team effort and a long-term commitment. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I would like to thank you for going to the Obeas training and being able to talk with different people to implement or integrate what Jim Lusinicus told. How many different staffs did he meet with?
All of them.
You met with all of them? Yeah. And I'd also like to thank the people who were on the Anna-Bullying Committee, high school counselor Christina Redland, who, by the way, went to the Obeas training a few years ago, so she already knows what that's about. Middle school counselor Jennifer Brzezinski, elementary counselor Stacy Copley. Two parents were on the committee, Melody Janovitz and Shannon Hartman. Two high school students, Cindy McDonald and Emma Brumsey. One of the Denise Crowder, was she a counselor? Okay. She was on the committee, and KPNAP students, Piper Andons, and Alicia Olson. And I was on the committee, and Ms. Rose was on the committee. So again, I'd like to thank you for all your efforts, and I hope this is going to help reduce the bullying in the schools.
Do we have a time frame to implement this in all of our schools? I know you all are at 4 elementary schools, but middle school, we've had some problems there. When do we anticipate?
Well, we're gonna do a survey, for 312, grades 3 through 12. What Christina Redland and I talked about is, doing, kind of using, here's the survey. But instead, before we purchase a survey, for every student 6 through 12, kind of doing our own preliminary survey to get some results, kind of that mirrors this, to see if we need to purchase the survey for 6-12, or just the 3-5, which we would do we would do in October, with everybody that we were gonna do it with. We really wanna go ahead and do the 6-12 survey to get the preliminary data, to see if we need to go forward with that. And then once the survey is taken, then we need to, then we'll figure out how we kind of go forward. We're meeting in a couple weeks, and that's one of the things that we need to discuss to kind of get a little bit more concrete, as far as the calendar is concerned.
Is the training for middle school and high school different than elementary? No?
Do you think it could go before the school year, maybe, right at the start?
I would like to see it implemented in all of their schools. If you feel that
That's the
strongly.
plan, but we're doing these elementaries to see
Yeah.
if it's going to be worth the time and the effort, which I think is in the long run it will be. But we have,
It's pricey, the books and all those are pretty pricey, and then you have to get the surveys for every student.
Can you go back one slide? Is that it?
That's it.
That's
And
the
see,
one I think
this is just like, it's the first year form of committee in the school, and so they recommend that everyone in the committee have all the books. I don't really feel that it's necessary that everyone needs all the books, but you definitely need a few for each committee, and so that's each committee at each school. And then, of course, then the staff, when they get trained, they're gonna need some of these as well, so that's why it can get pretty pricey, so, I mean, it's very comprehensive.
midst of them. So I feel like
So-
it will be effective.
For the two middle schools, I mean, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, that's the total 6 elementary schools, what you got there. About $1,600 for the guides. All right.
Yeah.
And then you got the teacher guides. Yeah, I said, okay, 3,800 total. And then the survey. So that is, when you're talking about the elementary schools, so we're talking about the survey is 335, a total of an additional $1,000. So now we're at $5,000.
Right, once the survey, we have to purchase the survey per student.
Yeah.
And it's $1.10 per student.
Right.
And that we would probably want to give every so often, but once we purchase the books, the teacher guides and the school-wide guides, that's a one-time purchase.
Okay, is that an actual book or is that like
Yeah,
a
so we
subscription
have
or
a
what?
bunch
It's
of
an actual book.
tables.
Okay. And then, so in order to implement this for the entire school system, what would be the estimated cost? Because I'm just seeing 6,312 on the survey. I see that cost, so that would take it up another 2,400 and change. But do we understand what the additional cost would be? Like how many more teachers guides, how many more school-wide guides? Do we have an estimate? What the overall cost would be?
Right now, because we were gonna start with the elementary, I only figured out the actual materials for elementary.
Yes, ma'am.
But you're gonna figure probably, at least 4 more, school-wide guides and 6 more school-wide guides for the middle schools. Probably like 10 more for middle school and 10 more for the high schools, at least.
Okay, so would it be safe to say that we could implement this school-wide for about $18,000? Would that be safe, or am I off base here? Because I see some of the numbers here that pertain to the surveys to 6 through 12, but it doesn't give me any other additional information. So I'm just trying, do we think that the most amount of this activity is happening at the elementary schools? Is that why we're starting there? I'm just curious.
That's
If you can start up, I think, from the bottom and then they get it instilled in them.
Yes, ma'am, and I appreciate that. I was just wondering if we had an idea of where we're having the most activity at this moment.
Last year, I heard from more middle school parents with concerns. That's
But
A lot of those parents too, you know, just, it wasn't actually bullying.
I don't know.
You know, they weren't following the, definition of what bullying was.
Well, some
But
of
yet,
them felt like
the
they
parents
were.
just toss that out and say, well, my kid was being bullied, and we
Well,
found out
I think what
they
they
weren't.
touched on too, everyone uses that word very loosely.
Well-
And there's a difference between
Being
being mean and, so I get that, so. it just
To be
depends on-
truthful, it's kind of hard not to use it. I mean, they used it like every other sentence throughout the whole tutorial there.
Yeah.
So maybe we'd say not pleasant behavior, I don't know. We
Well,
got one with another
And with our other presenter, we did address it at the middle school level. I just wondered when, we could possibly implement this as well, if it's.
And it does take some time. We are only allowed, we have to be very careful because they don't want us consulting with like too many schools at one time, so then we can't effectively help. And I understand your concern for middle school, and I'm an elementary school person, I always have. But I think if we can get buy-in there, our kids jump on things pretty quickly with us, and the parents can get buy-in too. I think it will be easier to work its way up because if we're proving that we're already starting and trying something, we're seeing that it works.
Long-term effects will be good.
Yes.
I understand.
I mean, I think that's one way to see it.
And we'll still be doing the surveys in the middle schools and the high school, so we'll still be getting information about what kinds of things are happening, where they're happening, most frequently, and those kinds of things. So we can use some of the strategies from the speaker at the middle school level, and there are other components there are other things that we can use once we have that data, that we can use at the at the secondary schools. That's not this curriculum. It doesn't mean we're not doing anything.
I think it's a good idea for us to do it the way we're doing it, because too many times we've bought into programs and spent lots of money on things and found out a year or 2 years down the road that they weren't what we needed, and that money was gone, and there was no way to recoup it. So.
And they want us to be successful. I mean, I've already seen that just from the call I had. I was just extremely impressed with our support person, and you know, she's been doing it a while, and so I was a little nervous because I'm busy and I have lots of kids to see, but boy, she got on the phone with me, and I know we had the same call, just different time, and that day, and I mean, boom, 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 she went through, let me ask you about this and about that, and let me share this.
So how many students, you did everyone at the school, 3rd, 4th, and 5th?
We have not.
Okay, you've not done, you just did
Right. It would
a
be
random
not-
survey?
We have not done
Oh,
this
you've not done
survey.
a survey.
That's just an integral part of
Okay.
When did you have the training?
in March.
March.
Okay, so you haven't had much time.
Right. We have. But
And there will be so much data, even if, I mean, from a certain sentence, it's almost 100 pages, you'll get hotspot, you'll find out, like, even if they do want to do the survey in middle school, you will find out where these issues are going on, and they can be addressed. Even if the Alveus program isn't fully implemented in school, the counselors and teachers will have so much data, they will still be able to work on things and hopefully improve it, even with this not even fully implemented yet, because it is a lot of data. And then since we are doing them online, you get the data back in like a week's time. So it's very quick turnaround.
All right, any other questions?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, you passed the survey. Okay, and item, B, Angela Rodriguez, our school nutrition director.
Angela, if you need to get to a certain page, just let me know, I can start out for you.
Just to be quick and sweet, I just need to do some updates on our procurement plan that you all approved of the last session. I had a TA visit with our DPI representative, and she looked over it, and she had a couple of suggestions that could save us financially for advertising. So if you were to turn to page 4, Elizabeth, on the bottom, the original document is in red with the changes. And if you'd like to see it, just let me know, I can send it to you as well, or you might already have a copy of it. But at the bottom, it says when a formal procurement method is required, the following procedure shall apply. She made the suggestion, and when she explained it to me, I agreed, to take out the specifications of what we did and just place that all formal purchases will be advertised in a major statewide outlet. I currently have questions with our head, Dr. Harvey, to find out, and thinks she's got a final answer from the USDA. If you know me a little bit, I kind of don't just take the answer, it has to make sense to me. And what this was doing was requiring us as in every district in the state of North Carolina to advertise in Raleigh and Charlotte newspapers. Because now that I know why, it's, when we advertise for bids, people pay companies to search randomly in the large outlets to see where they can pull and then bid with those smaller districts or larger districts. That makes sense now. However, the way we have it worded, or I had it worded, was I'd have to pay that for 5 days straight in one of those large outlets. We're talking $300 to $600 a day. With my budget, I don't want to spend any money unless we have to. So I asked her how could we reword it. So this way, it says just a major statewide outlet. I'm not stating that it's going to be in a publication, although it will be because it's mandated. But it's stating that it's a statewide outlet. So if you follow down, I didn't change that we're going to have it listed in the website. I'll have a procurement page created that'll have all of our bids that are open that will be in there. And then it's also going to be on what's called an IPS website. It's a state website where everyone in the state of North Carolina is aware that Dr. Reed can go to look at procurement items.
systems. So in my publication, I can pretty much just word Currituck County School Systems. School Nutrition Department has open procurement, which can be found here on this website, and then with my name and contact number, and so I'm gonna list that. And the smaller the words, the less the money. And then I also changed in these media outlets for at least 5 business days on page 5. I put it at a minimum of a week. And the way they described to me was that means that I can advertise it on Monday, which is 1 day, and advertise it on Friday, which is 1 day, and I'd advertise it within a week's span. So it's kind of tricky, but I thought it was pretty smart. So it saves me the days in the middle from having to advertise. So that's one of the big differences for the change in the revision. And the other one is on page 22. It starts with our attachments. If you dove into school nutrition, it's more complicated than it is easy, but we have a chart that has to tell me how I'm allowed to procure things. And some of the wording I had left out, for instance, annually with option to renew up to additional 4 years. I left that option to renew with an additional 4 years, which left me open to just rebid with the same person forever. And I don't think that's fiscally responsible, because I want to make sure within a 5-year gap that I get new numbers and I have put it out there and done the best I could, or within a year I could do the same thing. So you'll notice that I made changes throughout the chart where I had annually, I put with option to renew up to additional 4 years. And I also blended my produce, bread, and dairy, and just took those out. And I needed to update because I had chemicals down there twice, and I apologize about that. And I ended up, instead of line item, I put bottom line, because when you deal with chemicals, some come in ounces, some come in pails, some come in gallons. So I have to break those down into equivalencies, and it's just easier for me. Bottom line instead of item by item, and then also I put those as annual as well. I have those as semi-annually, can't do that. So those were the big changes, and I'm just asking if you all would agree to those, and then I could take off the revisions on here, clean it up, take out the strike-throughs, and then I'll send it through for signature. I believe it's on your consent agenda. Any questions?
I'm all for saving a little bit of money.
Me too. I was like, I can't spend that money. That doesn't make any sense. Who in Currituck goes to Raleigh or Charlotte? I can't even get a paper here. So when she explained it to me, then it made sense that they pay companies and filter through everything. So I said, okay, but how can I get away from it? And she gave me the money, Dr. Harvey did. So
Anyone have any questions?
I do. First, thank you for trying to save us money. And this isn't a question directly to that, but it might be, it's not necessarily probably saving money. But I have seen some things, particularly about food preparation and some of the, like the Virginia Beach school systems and such, and how they're trying to do more of it, and I recognize it's going to be probably more costly. But I was curious as to if you yourself or we could have someone looking into the possibilities of trying to emulate some of what they're doing in the near future. I do not appreciate
we have a North Carolina Culinary Institute that we send staff to. It started 3 years ago, I believe. I went to Culinary Institute in Charlotte, and they implemented it with us. And then we picked our staff, and we're starting with management staff first, and now most of the managers we had it, so we're implementing some staff members regular now. They do it statewide, but that's what the implementation is. We have a local chef, Andy Montero, with Montero's Restaurant. He's a big advocate for school nutrition, so we're very fortunate in having him in our region. I can pick up the phone and call Andy from my years of health department wise, and he's a good work relationship. He's held some workshops for us in the past to show us how to cross over into more herbs and spices, less high sodium, things of that nature. But this Culinary Institute allows me to send my staff for free. They actually pay them to attend the workshop. And it'll be in Elizabeth City Middle School in July this year. And I've got 4 staff that were eligible to go this time. We just got an email today, actually. So what they do is they go and they implement different products that we've tried in our school system and they didn't go as well. One of them that went well was the Hawaiian, it's kind of like a Hawaiian taco. It has fresh items in it, and we
blend it with items that I can get by commodity, which is our items I purchase from the USDA that do not cost us hard money, but it's considered a valuable money part to it. So once, if I'm not mistaken, you're speaking about the program of Virginia Beach where they brought the chef in and he's.
They're trying to do more preparation
More from scratch cooking.
on
Yes,
site.
yeah.
I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not even saying it's gonna be cost effective. However, they're having, based on the numbers so far, a pretty good response from kids engaging in eating more of the prepared
And we have
food.
to see more data for when they blend it
So-
out. The school they particularly did the data to is a different clientele. So they're used to the higher end product itself, but they were merging it, I believe, into 2 or 3 other schools in Virginia Beach this year.
I actually visited one. I have a great niece that goes to one, and the food was very, I mean, it's like what we had, you know, chicken legs and mashed potatoes, and
Did you notice how many people were in the back?
I did not, I'm
That's
sorry.
my biggest concern is our labor costs. Through the years, we've cut labor costs.
I was just visiting the
Yeah.
child. I
Those are
wasn't there to
questions,
really
those are
look at
questions
the.
on my to-do list when I'm able to talk with the director and ask them exactly what they implemented and how it worked. Because we have taken, I'll use William Elementary for an example. We've taken William Elementary when I went to school there. That's cool. We
Thanks for
had,
raising me.
we had what, about 8? Sammy's mom was the manager, so I think she had maybe 8 to 10 people in the kitchen. It blended down, we have 3 there now. So when we implement scratch cooking, we have to remember that there's hands-on with that scratch cooking.
And that's not, like I said, I recognize it's not gonna be a necessary cost savings.
It's in my sight.
I'm saying, I'd like to start looking at it because sometimes spending the money, you get results, and not always, but
Which is why
this
it's
is
a higher
something.
end product, because I believe in spending the money in the brands that
Right,
kids
so-
know, as opposed to getting something cheap that they won't eat.
So as much as I'm very thankful that you're eager to save money, I'm also eager to try to look outside the box and see if we can come up with some ideas to make that, something that's more enjoyable. And I recognize it will come at a cost. I
The
do.
more I get my staff out of the quick and go, we gotta serve, and then we gotta clean up, into the Culinary Institute where they come back rejuvenated, they come back with equipment, they come up with ideas. That's when we can implement more, because it's more a mind frame right now for my staff than it is an ability. They have the ability to do it, the mind frame is we don't have time to do it. So I've got to get that cost over, and we've been working on it. Like I said, I think we have, I can't say all managers are, but I want to say we have 8 managers that have been trained. I have 3 going this time and 1 regular staff member. So eventually, my intent is to have all my staff go through. I just don't send them when we have workshops in the West because it's a travel cost then. I wait until it's here or Dare County, or we've been in Bertie County.
Yes, ma'am, I appreciate that. Only thing I'd like to add is it looked like, based on some of the feedback I was seeing, that as a result of more kids taking part of the lunches, it was actually helping offset an increase of costs. I wasn't saying it was balancing that out, but I am saying that as a result of more engaging in lunch, they were seeing that it not only was it, they believe more healthy, and kids were wanting to eat more, and thus they were buying more. So that's what I'm saying. Yes, ma'am. I
I'm
know
trying
it's
to
a
make
complex.
products that are nitrate-free, things of that nature as well, so that we can, it's the new generations, what I call it. They're coming up and they know and are aware of what they're putting in.
And I'm sure your hands are tied, and you know, have all these areas, restrictions. All I was saying was, if you're a kid though, when you go there, you don't care about all that. You care about how it tastes. So,
Which is why
and you don't care how much it costs because your parents are probably paying for it. So you don't care about that. You
I'd
just
like
care
to
about
create a district-wide taste test as well, where we have it one school, and we invite all the kids that would like to participate, and just come and taste it, small portions of things, and then allow them to have ownership of the menus as well.
But that'd be
So
great.
that's on my radar.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Rose, if you'll share what school you went to, I'd like to know which
name, it's just north of Humboldt. You take a right, like you're going to Sandbridge, it's on the left. I've only been there once, but I will get the name for it.
Any other questions? Thank you, Angel.
Thanks.
All right, at this time, I'd like to call Superintendent Stefanik, Matt Mullins, Laurie Trussell, our officer to discuss.
We try to put a little game summary together for us, but we didn't have time to do that, so we just get the report. That's all. We revised the capital outlay listing, and we put in all the things that were suggested, and we took everything off of the cut list, and we just did a master list of everything that was suggested as a need at any of the buildings or at any district level facility. As you can see, if you jump to the back, just get to the last page of the book real quick. That came to a total of $2,130,000. Oh, and some other numbers there, $2,130,330 as our request total. It has been proposed that the county is going to designate $1.4 million to us, but they'll see the $2.1 million in requests, and hopefully they'll advance that cost. If you look also on the last page, there are a couple of, three actually lottery projects. Lottery money is something totally different than the capital outlay from the local funds. Lottery money is allocated to the county, but it is for school use. And so we just have to submit requests to the county, and then the commissioners have to act on it. I saw their agenda for Monday, and they're acting on, where's Matt? 2 HVAC requests for lottery money, I think from last year's list, are on this coming Monday's budget amendment.
They may be the two that we were going to pull from this year's list and try to get lottery money for, so we could put up a hole on this list. I'm pretty sure. Jarvisburg and Griggs.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Jarvisburg and Shawburg.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So,
What do you mean, it's been proposed 1.4 million? Did we send that over and say that's what we want?
No, they, back when the Evergreen report came out, we told the Evergreen folks that we had been on a traditional $1 million capital outlay allocation. And as far back as anybody I could ask, they remembered every year 1 million, 1 million, 1 million. Well, when they went and talked to the commissioners and the county manager about that $1 million allocation, they said, well, we never heard that the school district ever said no to any capital outlay request. We didn't know there was a greater need. So I sent Dan over then the whole list of how much over $1 million we had, and he said for the next 2 years, last year being year one, this year being year two, he could commit to 1.4 million right out of the gate for those 2 years.
I see.
And so we're going off of the initial allocation that there's $1.4 million for us out there. With this new number, they might be able to say, because that's another thing they said to Evergreen, if there is an account that they seem to have an easier time getting money into, it's the capital outlay budget line rather than the current expense budget line, which is our funding formula.
So when was this sent to them?
It's not sent until you guys approve it.
All right, so it could be sent tomorrow.
Yes.
okay.
Okay.
And I also have a meeting with Dan Scanlon tomorrow to update our special requests. And so some of those might be able to come off of this list. The
Special requests, like
the
wall to
wall at the middle school and the greenhouse are out there, special requests. And so if those come off of this list, then our grand total would come down to 1.8 rather than the 2.1 that's currently listed here.
So, the things that they have on their agenda come out of the lottery, if I'm understanding correctly, is number 2 on Jarvisburg, energy management controller and software upgrade, $32,250. Is that correct?
That's the potential if they agree to.
But-
What I did was I found extra money from last year's lottery and asked if I could allocate it this year.
Yes, sir, so what I'm asking is, that is one of the items that's
Yes.
on their agenda.
It's on their agenda for tomorrow night.
All right, and then the second one is,
Shawboro,
Number
about
two.
19,000.
18,225. Okay, so assuming
Page 3.
that they act on that. Okay, let me ask something real quick. So,
Yeah, that would be 50,000. The other two requests are for a grand total of 300,000. Those came off of this. They would come off that 2.1 list at the bottom.
right, let me back up a minute. So the packet that I have with all the little red cuts, that's the packet we think that we're trying to do. This packet will be an explanation of 50% energy savings and other data. That's online items for energy, and the total grand total of 30,330, right? And then below that, there's a lot of the numbers. And then I'm not sure about the technology capital outlay request in red at 419.
That's up at the top too. That should show that's.
This is what you're trying to send to the county, showing the entire list.
Yes.
This is the list that we're working on based on what they said internally that they might be able to provide.
Yes.
So if the items that they have on their agenda are funded, we can scratch those, right? And then if the wall, because of our previous conversation about how we thought that should be dealt with, that's 200,000 that will come out.
Off the 2.1. Right.
Well, they're not giving us $2.1 million. I hate to say that.
Right, but it would come off our 1.4 suggested list.
Those two columns will be at 1.9.
Right. Of the total,
Yes.
no matter what they give us. And assuming that we were working from this list, they would back off $250,000 off. Right?
The two lottery projects in the wall, yes. 250,000, yes.
Okay. Don't follow me?
No, we don't even have time to put it on paper.
You're not following me?
We're just trying to find the.
Shawboro.
Okay, I got it, it's right here. So
Page 3, page 3, go to page 3. Excuse me, page 4.
You're under Shawboro and Jarvisburg.
Jarvisburg, I think it's spaced back together. Jarvisburg's in the middle, see where it says energy management controller and software?
It's this page.
No. The actual, don't mix it up, the red thing is not, you're not acting on the one with red.
Okay.
That is,
That's
that's the
old.
old one. The one without red, nothing's on the cut list.
Okay.
Page 4, says Jarvisburg right in the middle of the page there, see where it says energy management controller and software?
32,000.
Right, the commissioner's agenda came out today, and on their consent agenda, it said HVAC lottery recommendation for Jarvisburg.
Okay.
That's what's on there.
So that would come off of this.
That was
Yes.
that one, and then Shawboro, same thing, energy management number 2, for 18,225. That's on there too.
Those are our two newest schools. Is that typical for that to wear out that quickly?
They put obsolete equipment in to save money.
Yeah.
So now if I have say I have a controller that's in a room that goes bad and I have to buy a new controller, it's not backwards compatible, so I can install it and the room will run by itself, but I can't program it, I can't see it, it's a big red X on my program. So I need to upgrade the controllers and the software for future failures.
It's not unusual when you're in a new building project. And I guess the best example I can give would be like technology. If you buy a laptop, the upgrades to systems and programs and things will make that laptop obsolete without upgrades in about 4 to 5 years, right? So when you're building a school and they're putting in systems, HVAC systems, energy management systems, whatever, what they might do is they might go and they can get a better rate if they're buying something that might be the model year from 3 years ago. And then what happens is they go obsolete because they've advanced to so many new systems that they don't support that old system anymore. And so to find parts, they jack the parts up because then it's supply and demand, and so the costs go up. And so it's very common that inside the first decade, you have to repair some systems or replace some systems to the newest upgrades, so you get the newest, latest, and greatest systems that will be supported.
Also, I mean, you have government banning types of Freon, and then some of the buildings were built like 10, 12 years ago, and some of the advancement on computer controls and all that remote access has advanced. And so,
Well, it's unusual that they would only take those two items to possibly put in with the lottery funds.
Well, I think what we were doing is we were trying to find bits and pieces, that extra money that could go into lottery.
I have a lottery project that I allotted in the budget for last year that was done last summer. It came in well under the budget that my budget numbers came in for. So I had that extra chunk of money sitting there. So with
You
the
decided to ask for
with
it.
finances help,
Okay.
we asked them if they could allow us to use that money for another project to save money for this year.
Now, what about the 200,000 for the masonry replacement? I thought that you had presented that to them already. I thought
Yes.
there was some discussion. I thought
Yes.
they were supposed to
Yeah,
act on it.
And the feeling is that there's support for that, and Dan has to make a formal budget amendment request. And on the consent agenda, there's another item that says budget amendments. And so when I check with him tomorrow at our meeting, I'm gonna say, is our 200,000 in that budget amendment? And then I'll also ask, is there 100,000 in there for the greenhouse in that budget amendment as well? Because he has to say, like Lori does, he spent this much or budgeted this much in capital outlay. If he wants to put more in there, then he has to put more in, then he has to get the budget amendment approved by the commissioners. And so that, I really thought they were meeting this past Monday, and it would be done before we got to this, but they didn't have a meeting, they're meeting this coming Monday.
So do you think we'll have some answers next week that,
Monday night, I hope.
not only this, but everything?
About the was like funding formula, I don't know about that.
I don't
You had the
know.
last conversation with Mr. White on that.
I did, and we were supposed to know something by now, and it's crunch time, and I really think we need some answers.
I can try to get preliminary stuff. I'm meeting with Dan and Ben, the new county manager, tomorrow.
so, all right, from the original, packet that we talked about, which is very similar to this packet, and not quite as detailed as the last packet. All right, some of the stuff, on here, okay. Where's, the difference between, the one packet and the others, and look, I'll be honest with you, I'd like to have, all this more, but some of the stuff, I thought we might have, my understanding, at least my interpretation of what was, I thought we had more like need than want. And I don't mean to offend them, but I want to get everything we get. And so when I'm starting to see, the stuff that got added, I went through it line by line, and some of the stuff, I didn't really see, is a need. Some of the prices were exactly the same on the first list as it was in the highway. But how do we include, not that I don't think we should have them, but how do we call marching band instruments capital? I'm not directing it to anyone, just somebody tell me that.
My understanding of it is that they're capital because they're expensive. And when they get to a certain money amount, that it's a capital expenditure. And because they're so expensive and some of them are considered specialty instruments, the students would have whatever would be the basic instrument, clarinet, trumpet, flute, whatever, but when they go to some of the other sections of the band, instead of paying whatever the amount is, I can't remember which, wasn't it a French horn? Like a French horn or something like that, instead of putting in that amount for the family, then the school owns some of those specialty instruments. Most of the time, I think about with drummers. A drummer would have a snare drum for home use possibly, but he's not gonna have a set of timpani at home, and so then the school buys the timpani because that's a specialty drum piece of equipment. Lori, Renee, anybody else with that?
It would largely be because they last more than a year too. It's not a
Okay.
consumable.
That's fine.
So the existing, instruments are worn out, is that what we're saying?
There's new students moving up from the middle school, it's growing.
Okay.
Plus, the band, as he gets more interest, like Renee said, people have interest in these specialty items that he wants to put in there.
And look, I want them to have instruments. I just want to make sure when we shoot the thing over there, that they don't go, what? I get it. I just, why can't we call Chromebooks? And we keep on. I'm not trying to be funny.
Well, but actually, we do. That's the technology.
That's it. Okay,
That's
because
the
I just said
technology.
technology, you
Yeah.
didn't have any line on
Right,
it.
there's-
And
yeah, there's-
$419,000.
Yeah, there's a separate sheet, and Chromebooks are on there, and some other technology items are on there, and so that comes from a building level request, and then we put together a separate technology list, and they did that too.
And I want, everybody to have the guts, okay? But do we need a $25,000 electronic marquee sign and a $25,000 school boards for the gym rent, that's $50,000?
Well, I think the part of the confusion was we didn't have them on the original list. We were under the impression you wanted us to put back on this
Excuse me.
list.
Yes, ma'am, and I do want to see the whole list, but I was kind of surprised because I thought there was like more, like, I was thinking it was more like, I thought it was a lot of building repairs and a lot of things like that that were really in need. So when I've been communicating with some of the people on the other side, I said, look, we're gonna have this large list, and apparently we have a really big need for these things. And so
I have an equipment spreadsheet and I have a roofing spreadsheet.
Mhm.
And there are phases to where I'm trying to phase those things in, so I don't hit the little pot of money, not little, 1.4 billion is not small. But I didn't add anything else that I have on the list because I'm trying to phase those in. And we basically went back and took the list that came from the schools and added that stuff back in for this year. I certainly have roofs that are gonna be needing repair over the next 5 to 10 years, but I'm
Yes.
trying to slowly phase those in.
But not
So-
immediate need. Not
No,
immediate.
I mean, you see the lottery money, if you look at the cut list, the first list we looked at, I cut $233,000 out of a roof that I really needed and put it back in this time. So that's not even in the total money, because that's, you see that.
I actually saw that.
That's
And I-
one that I'd love to get
I
all
was
of well,
happy to see that
it's,
because I saw it over to the line item to
Yeah.
the right where it was cut on the previous one, and I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Central School has one segment of roof that's about 5 years old.
Yeah, one was 110, one was
And
230.
then there's two segments of rubberized EPDM roof that are close to $600,000 as a total. So, yeah, I felt like I put 150 in this year and 235 in next year.
Okay.
Well, when we asked to bring those back in, I stuck it back in there. That's one that is a necessity.
Yeah.
The next big item is gonna probably be the high school's roof. But I'm getting away with, right now, I was told by 3 engineers last year that it has about 5 to 10 years left in it. Clean it, we'll evaluate it. So I'm getting it cleaned this year. Been trying to get it cleaned all year, but the guy's been busy. So yeah, there are always needs. There's an equipment need at JP Knapp as far as heating and air conditioning
Mhm.
that is old and antiquated, that's running, that I was gonna put on next year's because it just was too big to put on this year's. I didn't throw that in. because I was trying to do my stuff and some of what the schools do.
Matt, I have a couple of questions. One, the nap roof. I know we've talked about that before with the slate.
Yeah,
And possibly we've had some leaks, because I've seen some discolored tiles in a
Yeah.
couple of rooms. Is that being fixed this year? Because I don't see.
I have a whole pallet of slate that I bought from a broker in Delaware.
Okay,
My guys are gonna do the repairs on that this summer.
okay,
That's going to be repaired. Wherever we know there's a leak that's been looked at, we're gonna fix it. Or I'm gonna hire somebody to fix it, because I don't really like my guys walking on slate roofs, but they say they can do it.
right. Now.
But that whole roof does not need to be replaced. If we replace it, it's gonna be like the media center, it's gonna be a composite slate with a 50-year warranty, and that's not cheap.
Right. The two things you said you were gonna do with the lottery at Jarvisburg and Shawboro, are they by any chance gonna make those buildings more comfortable as far as temperature? Because Shawboro has never really been comfortable.
That is design and heating and air equipment. Now, I can drive the temperature down as low as you want. It's how much do you want to pay electricity wise.
Well,
Right now, there was a time, and Dr. Dobbins, you'll remember this before I got here, where every school was set up, heat in the winter, 68 degrees, air conditioning in the warm months, 75. Since I've been here, I've been trying to keep up with the needs of everybody going 73, 72, 74. It's getting crazy, and electricity is going through the roof.
Well, long
So-
ago, there used to be a thermostat in every classroom.
Yeah, but I guarantee you, the electricity bill wasn't free then
Really
either.
went up.
But what nobody understands about Jarvisburg and Shawboro is so the way it's designed is the rooms have heating and air units.
Yeah.
The hallways don't.
Right.
So you close your doors, your room's gonna be comfortable, but the hallway's gonna always be kinda in. That's the way it was designed, and I can't fix that. You leave your doors open, the rooms may cool the hallway a little bit, or heat the hallway.
I think some of the classrooms were uncomfortable too, but maybe it's better now. I was just curious about that. And as far as the marquee goes, I know one of the big pushes, like in national boards and all that good stuff, was to have your community involved. And I think if we had a digital marquee, we would keep things more up to date. I know it takes a lot of time to change those marquees off. I know, I see the principals shaking their heads. Get those letters out, somebody go out there and change it. I think we
And
get
then the
more.
wind blows and they're all over everywhere.
I think we get more information out to the community and hopefully get them to come and be a part of their schools. So, I would like more.
Hey, I would like the, guys in bring the truck. I mean, I would like a lot of things, quite honestly.
I think it would
I like not, hey,
benefit
I like not to have to work.
involvement in their school.
I like not to have to work.
But we did
But again, it would be.
We did.
It would be
Yes,
asked
we
for
did
the building.
exactly what we
Yes, we do.
I
And now
was
we're taking it
I was
apart.
just trying to say that I thought that there was more building needs than wants in addition. And I was gonna say,
Well,
it was my mistake.
Well, and Matt took over from what Willis used to do. They put them on replacement schedules and they try to stretch out things across so that you're not having multiple $100,000 repairs in multiple buildings and taking a whole.
Yeah, because we do that, then 10 years or 20 years or whatever, you're gonna have
You're gonna have it
all at one time, yeah.
And to be quite honest with you, the way that I have to jump through hoops for the engineers in Raleigh and the county, I don't have enough time in 2 months to do all the projects that I could do. I have to kind of figure out how much I can do in a couple of months.
Yeah, between this year's capital outlay money, the lottery money, savings from last year's lottery projects, lottery money, and the upcoming capital outlay money, in addition to Lori, when her eyes got back to working, she saw some accounts that had some flexibility in them, and so we took some of the items out of here that could be classified as instructional purchases rather than capital. We took some of these off the list, and so by putting all that together, we got the list down to 2.1, and we were able to take care of some other projects through some other means.
Well, I'm glad to see the needs listed on here because the commissioners do say, well, we didn't have it. So,
I agree with that. I was just thinking that there was more, and if he's getting 10 more years out of the roof, well, I applaud you, not to make it go past his life, but if you got people that are telling you that it's only need to be cleaned and assessed, that's a responsible thing to do. I'm not complaining, I was just under the impression based on previous conversations, and maybe that was my fault, that we had more dire.
Well, I may have more time on the roof of the high school, but as far as visual observation of it, but as far as my plan, I'm gonna clean it, and within the next couple of years, I'm gonna start doing it in stages, because you're looking at roughly $1 million to replace that, just the flat portion of that roof. The angled portions, I didn't even get a bid on because they're in better shape. The flat portions seem to take a little bit more abuse. I mean, sometimes you'll go out there and find a little segment of holes where a bird has been pecking seeds on the roof and pecked holes to the roof. So we just have to patch them.
I do think though, if we're gonna send this over, only thing I would like to ask is that we try, instead of saying, hopefully we're gonna pick up the two at the two schools, but there's also some other, I thought I saw a couple other energy upgrades in here. And I thought there was some.
One for Currituck Middle,
Okay,
one for
so
Bayrock Elementary.
anyhow, what I would like to do on those is not just mention that it's gonna possibly save us 15% annually. What I would prefer to try to do is say, they know how much it costs, because the cost is right there. I would like to give a dollar figure amount of estimated annual savings. And that, thus, they could say, okay, or we could say for them, costs $100,000, and we anticipate savings of 10,000 or 8,000 or 15,000 annually, or wherever it is. We could articulate that into a number so that they're not looking at 15% energy costs, but energy costs is nowhere on it. That's all I would ask.
I have energy management controls in every school already.
Okay?
You asked me for a number that I could give you, I gave you the number, but until we can afford to repair or replace all of the equipment that the energy management drives and runs, I don't know that we're gonna get any more savings out of what we have in the school right now. The energy management controls are, now at Currituck Elementary School, we may be able to do some programming to make it more comfortable in the school for the students because of the design. But as far as saving more energy, I don't know that a new energy management is gonna save any more money with the old equipment that we have. It's an old boiler chiller two-pipe system.
I understand what you're saying, so you're replacing part of the components without getting.
Without, yeah, it's kind of like,
So
do I
then the
replace the controls or
15%.
do I replace the equipment first? And it's a kind of a juggle, I'm learning that.
So then when we say EMS/BAS generates an estimated 15% energy cost savings.
That's just basically what it does and what has been designed to do historically. I can't say that
I understand. you can't say-
I can't say that replacing my antique equipment is going to save any money. It's just gonna keep me from having to have components fail and not being able to buy them compatible equipment again. Currituck Elementary School has systems that if they fail, I'm in deep hot water, no heating, no air, I can't get the components, so I'm trying to get new things in there so I don't have to get stuck in the middle of the winter without heat and be in the paper like the city was.
So we couldn't put a number on the 15% then?
Not really. If I thought that it was going to save any money, I can't. I would. I could give you a number at 15%. I could look at my electricity bills and give you a number, but I don't
Or if
know
we're
if
gonna
that's the
say
truth.
estimated 15%, only reason I was saying that if we had an actual number
Yeah.
in parentheses beside it, that might work with the brain and understanding what we're trying to get
Okay.
to think. That's all I was
We
saying.
can do that.
I understand. Look, I really do understand outdated equipment.
I know you do.
And I understand that just because you replace one piece, you don't replace the other, you're not gonna have the results you want. And I also understand that, it depends on how much sunlight you get, what's your windows, and how
Yeah.
much ingress and egress points, and I understand how the thickness of your insulation, the R value, I really understand all that.
I know you do.
They might not, but I do.
I know.
And I can appreciate that multiplier piece, because I think the general community would be amazed if we showed them what our electric bills were.
Oh,
yeah.
You know, so if we put 15% savings on the electric bill, that's a pretty good number.
Right, and that's all I'm saying,
Put
is
that
if we
on.
can put a number so that they might not have any idea of that. And it doesn't mean that we're saying that's what's gonna happen, that's why we got the keyword estimated beside it.
Okay, I can do that for you.
Okay,
Right, so at the board meeting, the recommendation to the board would be to act on this finalized revised list, and then we can take it. If I get guarantees tomorrow at my meeting from Dan that the items that they're gonna cover at the commissioners' meetings are the actual items in this, I can revise it one more time and take those things off and update the final number at the end. If you act on that. The other piece of this, letter C, is interim budget, and Lori will explain that, what that's all about, because we're at that time of year where we're gonna end the budget on June 30th, and we don't approve next year's full budget until October, when we get all our numbers from the state, and so she'll explain what interim budget is. Ms. Lori?
Yes, it's the same process that we've been following for many years. I recommend that the Board of Education approve an amount equal to the 18-19 budget as an interim budget for 19-20 until state, local, and federal allotments are finalized.
Well, we would be in the hole if we did that, correct? Because if the county doesn't give us extra money, we're gonna be in the hole.
Well, we wouldn't appropriate it if we didn't have it. This is to let you roll over the year, start operating. By sometime in July, we will probably know what the state's doing, and we'll build our budget around that.
Well, we should know next week, but when will we know what the county is going to give us?
I think the county finalizes their budget, and you guys have been around for more county budget approvals than I have, but I'm thinking that they approve their final budget in June. We have to give our allocations, we have to have all of our budget information to them by May 15th. And I think they finalize everything from all their departments in June. But it's that, it's the state, it's the federal, all those pieces go into our budget. We wouldn't go in the hole because we're not gonna run all of next year on the interim budget. This gives us a chance to actually continue to pay bills
July,
August, and
yes.
September until the board
Otherwise, you
finalizes.
cannot even pay bills.
Right, you're not allowed to pay any bills unless you have something
Unless
in
you have a
place.
budget.
And then the actual budget, I would think, would be done in October, brought to you at the October meeting that you would approve.
At which time we can make changes.
We'll have to.
Well, it'll be built on real revenue sources, that information from the local, the state, and the federal. And so it'll be
So we
accurate to
would
what we
know
have.
then exactly what we have. and
Yeah, we
if
can
make
operate with
changes,
our
we could.
budget.
Right, and the hope is that that meeting, that we're actually proposing a budget that takes no money out of the fund balance, and we're operating on actual revenue sources. That's the goal. That's the goal. But again, they allocate the local allocation. You know, state allocation, we kind of can predict what that's gonna be. The local allocation married with that will determine whether or not we're outside of fund balance.
sounds good. Any questions?
That would be another action item at the regular meeting.
Okay. Everybody good?
Mhm.
All right, we have a motion that we close the work
You
session.
don't need a motion to disclose?
Close, okay?
I'll move it.
You move it, okay? All right, work session is closed. Thank you.